Day 5 at the Australian Open was the stuff we dream about in the first week of a major. There were never enough screens to watch. You felt constantly overwhelmed. And no matter how hard you tried, you definitely missed some stuff. And I'm not going to cover everything that happened here. I can't. I might not go in depth on all of it. You can't. But I will give a little bit of a rundown as I have finally caught up on everything I felt like I needed to catch up on that went down on day 5, second day of second round action at the Aussie, and I will run through it. By the way, I promised to get back on track on my recording schedule, and the content I do won't be so late after this one. Let's start with Iga Swiatek. She looked dead in the water against Danielle Collins. That kind of kicked off the chaos. She's down 4-1 in the third set. She had lost to Collins 2 years ago at the Australian Open. And it was kind of the same story. You know, in both cases, it just felt like Swiatek couldn't hit a serve that Collins wasn't going to crush. It's all in the first strike for Danielle Collins. You know, it's just how she plays. She's going to be hyper-aggressive. She's going to make Iga defend. And sometimes Swiatek, when she plays hyper-aggressive opponents, it's almost like she tries to get to their level to, I guess, try to make them defend. Because she doesn't like to watch the ball go by her 20 times in a set. And instead of kind of staying true to how she plays, how she should be playing all the time, she almost changes her style. And I think that's why she's lost at times to the Ostapenkos of the world, the Rybakinas of the world, the Danielle Collinses of the world. Okay, so she's down 4-1 in the third set here, and she comes all the way back. She survives. Juan Ignacio, very good Iga statistician on Twitter, looked at the final 32 points of the match from 4-1 down and did not score a single unforced error for Swiatek. So she got really solid. She started serving to Collins' forehand very stubbornly. And I don't know why it took her so long. And I don't know why she didn't do it 2 years ago in that semifinal. And it's not that you're completely safe when you serve to Collins' forehand. Don't get me wrong, but she's going to miss a lot more compared to the backhand. And she missed a lot of forehand returns, Danielle Collins, in this final stretch of Iga's 5 straight games. And she lost a little bit of aggressive intention. And her movement gets so exposed when that happens. You know, she really needs the first strike because in rally, even from the start of the match, when Swiatek gets into a advantageous position, Collins is never really stealing any points or scrambling with any success. So it was a really good comeback effort by Swiatek. And it's the kind of thing that she's maybe lacked a little bit at times because she spent so much time front running in her career. It has seemed at times that she doesn't handle adversity as well. Not adversity like off the court or adversity in anything other than just like when a power player starts to get hot and start to hit her off the court and have some success. At times, Swiatek has kind of gone off the rails in that situation, and she got it together here and didn't do it. Now, you know, she's starting to build up more and more experiences like this, and it's so easy to forget how young Swiatek is. But the more she comes back in matches like this, the more she can draw back on experiences like this, the better she's going to get at it. And she certainly did it against Bencic at Wimbledon, and that was the first big one where it felt like Swiatek did a great job pulling a Houdini and winning a match that she looked like she was going to lose. There's also a long history of players at the Australian Open on the women's side coming back from really kind of dire deficits in the first week and ending up winning the tournament. Pretty uncanny. Hasn't happened in 4 years now, but 2014, Li Na in the third round, 2016, Kerber in the first round, 2018, Wozniacki in the second round, 2021, Osaka in the fourth round. They all saved match points. Iga didn't save match point, but it's certainly going to be a situation where if she comes back to win this title, we're going to say, Hey, remember she was down 4-1 against Collins in the second round? But while we're on the topic of history, Ostapenko looms large in her quarter. Elena is going to play the same style as Collins. She's just going to do it a little bit better, a little bit more committed. And the key is going to be the same. Iga has to serve well, and she can't start pressing on every ball just because she knows there's a lot of power and aggression on the other side of the court. She needs to stay true to her game and trust that she's going to be able to force enough errors and get enough mistakes from the other side of the court. After the match, Danielle Collins retired. No, I'm sorry. That's incorrect. After the match, Danielle Collins announced that she was going to retire. It is the first time in history that a player has retired in response to a press conference question. I've never seen it. I've never seen it in my life. So, like, what I mean by that is usually players announce it on their own terms. Collins actually maybe wasn't going to say anything. And then when she was asked in the press conference, like, wait, because I think she said she's almost done. And then the reporter was smart. She was like, wait, you're almost done? When are you done? And she was like, this year. So I've never seen that happen. But on the topic of that real quick, I interviewed her last year at the US Open. One of the easiest interviews I've ever done. I did not ask like good questions or complicated questions. They were very normal questions, but her answers were incredible. And I wanted to know because I noticed that she didn't play a lot of events last year and she wasn't injured. So clearly she was just like, I want to play less. I want to spend more time at home. So I said, okay, so I know that you've made a concerted effort to spend more time at home. What do you enjoy so much when you are back at home? And her answer was just really funny because she went super in depth. And she said she's the type of person who likes to water her plants and read a book. She's an old soul. She has 4 dogs. She lives 15 minutes away from her parents. She thinks it's, really important to spend as much time with them as possible. So just like really sweet stuff, nothing out of the ordinary, but she seems like someone who's going to deal with kind of post-tennis in a really, really healthy way, which is not something that you can say about everybody after they retire. I've seen it firsthand. All right. So after Swiatek and Collins finished, you had 2 matches go to deciding 10-point tiebreaks on the men's side. One of them, I watched almost the entire match. The other one I didn't. The one that I watched almost all of was Zverev against Lukas Klein. It kind of captivated me, I got to say, because about 8 games into the match, it was like 4-all in the first set. And I was just watching how it was playing out. And I said to myself, I'm happy to admit this. I said, Lukas Klein's going to win this match. I really did. I thought he was going to win even before he had a lead in the match because I saw that every point was on his racket. Almost every point that was divorced from Zverev's serve was up to Lukas Klein. Like Lukas Klein was absolutely the hammer and Zverev was absolutely the nail. And I'll give you stats. So in rallies 0 through 4 shots, winners were only 39-37. Klein with 2 more. But that's close, right? And that's because Zverev could be offensive with his serve and behind his serve. If he got a short ball off of his serve, he could be offensive on the next ball. So winners were pretty even, and that was plus 11 in points for Zverev. Once they got to a neutral position, rallies 5 or more shots, winners 41-12 for Lukas Klein. And Lukas Klein won the lengthy exchanges against Zverev, plus 11 in points. So notice both are plus 11. Yeah, total points for this match were tied. There was 0 difference. First of all, first time I've watched Lukas Klein. And I want to say the commitment that he has to his style is really, really special. It's really good. And I give a lot of credit to him, his coaches, just for like getting to that point where he knows what his identity is. And every point that he plays is sticking to that identity, which is I need to hit every ball that I have an opportunity as big as I possibly can. Like, I need to crush everything. And he's got the forehand to do it, and he's got the backhand to do it. And what Zverev was doing was allowing him to play that style by playing really, really deep in the court and giving him tons of time on the ball, letting him attack. So I thought Zverev took the wrong approach to this match. I think you want to try to make a Lukas Klein defend a little bit if you can, when the opportunity arises, and you want to try to take a little bit of time away, because he's this guy with the massive backswing on the forehand, where the face of his racket goes to the back fence before he turns it. Like, he's got this big long swing, and if you give him tons of time, he crushes the ball. But if you don't, he struggles a whole lot more. So again, Klein was kind of all over Zverev, and in the end, Zverev served impeccably well. This happens so often with Alex, where you're watching some of his matches and you're thinking, boy, if his serve drops off a little bit, he's going to be in trouble. You're thinking, wow, if he doesn't serve like 75%, then he might lose control of this match here. And sometimes you say that, and then what happens is he just serves 75% over and over and over again. In tie breaks and throughout sets, like the first serve just never goes away. And that's what happened. He served 75% over 5 sets. And it's not like he served 90 in one set and then 60 in another. Like, it was just that very even, consistent serving performance from Zverev that made it difficult for Klein, obviously, to find the breaks of serve that he was looking for, even though he was taking care of his own serve very well, because behind his own serve, he was dictating and Zverev was letting him. After the match, Zverev gave like one of the more honest assessments of a match I've ever seen a winning player give. He said basically everything that I just said. He said he was basically a spectator and that Klein was either hitting winners or missing. And he even said that Klein probably should have won the match. And the reason he feels that Klein probably should have won the match, which is not something that I fully believe in. Like, I feel like in tennis, unless there's like a million net cords that go one player's way or shank winners or something, it's pretty much like, all right, the player who was supposed to win won, or bad calls, or I don't know. Basically, usually, in my opinion, the player who's supposed to win the match wins the match. But the reason Zverev said that was because Klein had some really easy opportunities here, particularly in the fourth set. There was only one break point in the fourth set, and Klein had a routine midcourt forehand that he bottled. And I think, if he connects on that forehand, does he get tight serving out the match? I don't know. I mean, Zverev couldn't break him the whole time. And the mentality for Klein, like the emotional stability, was unreal. So I really don't think so. I think he was a forehand away from winning this in 4. And then if you look at the fifth set tiebreak, it's 7-8. It's on serve. And at 7-8, Lukas Klein misses like the easiest volley ever. He had Zverev in the full scramble the whole time. You have to give Zverev a lot of credit for defending and getting the extra ball back. But in the end, Zverev hit a very, very desperate slice, and Klein had a very slow incoming ball to volley, and he hit a drop volley, and he found the net on it. And that was the difference. That set up match point. Zverev won the point, and there you have it. So Zverev survives, but he's been shaky here. Dominic Koepfer was really just peppering the forehand. That was the strategy. Just like, I'm going to make him hit. I'm going to make him beat me on his forehand. And it worked pretty well. Koepfer had some success in that match. And then Lukas Klein's strategy was not that. It was, I'm going to crush everything in sight. And that worked pretty well too. But Zverev comes away with the win. Now, so Swiatek was on one screen for me. Zverev was on the other screen. The match that kind of fell through the cracks a little bit was Ruud versus Purcell, which I hear from start to finish was highly entertaining. And I can imagine Purcell, crafty guy, really fun to watch. I did kind of go back and study the 10-point tiebreak, which it came down to. And I'll say what impressed me most about it was that Ruud really used the other parts of his game outside of his forehand to win this tiebreak. And by the way, I think his forehand's been good this year, better than it was last year for the most part, especially at this time of the year. But what impressed me about Casper was the other stuff he did in this tiebreak, where Purcell hit a pretty good forehand drop shot. I think it might have been at 3-1. And Ruud displayed really good hands on the retrieval to kind of keep the ball low and force like a awkward missed half volley for Purcell, who followed in his drop shot to the net and was hoping for Ruud to pop the ball up so that he could really hit down on a put-away volley, and instead the ball was at his feet. So that was a great job by Casper. Ruud hit a really nice +1 backhand, a +1 backhand cross-court where, like, if you get it to Ruud's backhand on the return, you're thinking, okay, I'm back to neutral here. But Casper said no, and that was a really good moment. Ruud hit two big serves, two unreturnable serves in this 10-point tiebreak. It wasn't until the match point where Ruud really found a finish on his forehand. Nice inside and forehand. So it was a good 10-point tiebreak by Casper. Now, Purcell had a terrible start where he missed a mid-court forehand, unforced error, and double faulted to go down 3-love. And it seemed like there was something wrong with Max's hand. Like this blister on his right hand. He had a couple more missed forehands in the tiebreak. It's probably in this matchup, the worst shot on the court is the Purcell forehand. And oftentimes in the biggest moments, the worst shot on the court has a way, especially when it's a ground stroke, it has a way of just coming into play with the nerves at hand. So Casper comes through as well. Obviously, Ruud, Zverev, same section. So, you know, when those two are both in trouble, there's an opportunity or there's a chance that the draw is about to open up, and instead it does not open up. All right, I want to go out now to Tommy Paul versus Jack Draper. Again, I watched a lot of this, but I'm going to keep it pretty short here. Tommy got crushed by Jack last week in Adelaide, killed. I think he lost, I'm going off memory, I think it was 4-1, or it might have been 1-4. I think Tommy made an adjustment here because Jack was looking for the backhand cross court. And when his backhand's very flat, Draper's backhand, it's flat, it's hard, it's very precise. So I think when he hits that nice backhand cross court and he keeps the ball low and he makes Tommy move to his right, Paul's forehand, that next forehand, when he hits it from a low contact point, especially when he's on the run, he kind of has to lift up the ball and he doesn't get that penetration and it can be attackable. So I don't think Tommy wants that deuce side cross court Draper backhand to Paul forehand. I don't think he wants it at all. He was doing such a good job of changing with the forehand down the line to get out of that pattern. And then Draper has the same issue when Paul hits backhands cross court to his forehand. Paul's got that flat backhand, which stays really low on a hard court that allows it to. And then Draper's got the spinny forehand with the Western grip from the low contact point that sits up to be attacked. So it's a very interesting matchup. And it comes down to who hits the down the line forehand better to set up their preferred pattern. I thought Tommy hit the down the line forehand better than Jack here. In the fourth set, Draper had a horrible string of forehands at 5-all. And that kind of lost him the match. So I think that, you know, Paul had played him twice, and when you're a righty and you're playing a lefty and you don't fully, it's not that you don't have an awareness, but I think sometimes it takes a little bit to gain enough respect where you're going to completely alter your patterns to try to attack a particular opponent. And I think at this point, Draper was 2-0 against Paul, and Tommy got to a point where he really committed himself to kind of going against his regular patterns against Jack and attacking that forehand and keeping it away from the backhand as much as he could. Paul saved 4 set points in the 4th set, so this one could have gone 5. And Tommy was more clutch. Maybe the physicality kind of came into play. Paul said after the match that he knew that he had to try to keep Jack on court as long as he could because Draper had that really brutal physical first-round match against Marcos Giron. So that could have played into Draper's level and his ups and downs that he had in this match, maybe. Rune, Holger, eliminated. Arthur Cazoux. Now, you guys can tell me in the comments if I'm saying it wrong, because the chair umpire was saying Cazoux, the commentators were saying Cazoux, but I think the French people in the crowd were saying Cazoux. And you know what? I think the French people in the crowd are probably right, more right than them. So this was a high-quality match. I was so impressed with the young Frenchman. Let me just start with that. First of all, Cazoux has a crazy live arm, a really great serve. He's not that tall. His technique isn't super flowy. I don't look at the serve technique and I'm not like, wow, that's a thing of beauty. It's so gorgeous. No, I just think it's a certain natural explosiveness he has, which is so often the case with serving. It's just some people have a live arm and some people don't. And Arthur has it. 100%. He's really fast. He's good at the net. His double hander's a gem. I mean, one thing that you'll probably see if you watch the highlights or if you watch the match, it's like how many backhand passing shots did Cazoux nail on Holger? How many? I mean, you know, Rune's really aggressive. He looks to come forward, and I just think the Cazoux backhand punished him so often when Holger was coming in on anything less than stellar. And in general, you know, Rune is one of the most frequent forehand down the line players on tour. He hits his forehand down the line more than almost anybody, him and Medvedev. And Kazoo's backhand is such a gem. He's so ready for that. I think that's a big factor in the matchup. The biggest thing I noticed for Holger was the errors on his forehand, but not the unforced errors. I'm not talking about easy forehands that Holger is missing. I'm talking about forced errors. I'm talking about when Cazoux comes in with quality into the forehand side of Rune and Holger lacking some stability, struggling for pace absorption, depth absorption on the forehand side. I just thought there were a lot of big moments in the match where Rune's missing running forehands or Rune's missing forehands off of deep balls from Cazoux. I don't find that side or that deuce side for Rune, I don't find it to be resilient. I think when Cazoux put quality there, he was getting errors. And part of that, I think, is sometimes Holger's court position, he rushes his own forehand because he's trying to move up inside the court, sometimes for no reason. Like sometimes, look, very simple. When you move forward, it should be in anticipation of a short ball, in anticipation of a ball that you are going to probably have to attack. And sometimes Holger wanders forward without that advantage and he gets killed for it. One big moment is like 4-3 love 30 in the 4th. I want to give Holger some credit. He competed really hard in this match. He stayed positive. He kept up the energy even when he was down 2 sets to love. At 4-3 love 30 in the 4th set, Cazoux hits a pretty normal forehand cross-court trade. It's just deep in the court, and Rune shanks it. Cazoux ends up holding serve there. That could have been love 40 if Holger just plays a really good point there. He probably breaks serves for the 4th set, and we go 5. That's a little bit of a stretch. I know a lot would have to happen, but, love 30 situation there. That's a big deal, just to name one. So, Arthur Cazoux, background, very young player who started the year with a challenger title. So, he's yet to lose in 2024. And he's beaten Holger a bunch of times when they've played at the junior level and at the challenger level. So it's a surprising result as the world number 122 takes out Holger Rune. But at the same time, there were some signs here based on the history, based on the youth of Cazoux, where, you'll see young players when they make improvements, it takes a little while for their ranking to catch up with their improvement. And obviously a hot player with a lot of confidence who beat Laszlo Djere in the first round. It was a long match, though. It was a 5-setter. Don't underestimate, last thing on Cazoux, don't underestimate the power of Arthur Fils and Luca Van Asch and what they can do to push a guy like Cazoux. Certainly saw that with the Americans when this generation comes up at the same time and they see their friends and the people that they kind of grew up playing with kind of pushing the envelope, playing better and better. It does a lot to kind of instill belief and instill motivation in a guy like Arthur Cazoux. So I'm excited to see him more this tournament and beyond. Let us go now to Medvedev Ruusuvuori. I don't have that much on this, but Medvedev comes back from 2-0, wins the 5th set, 6-love. Really funny parallel. He did the same thing. I think his last comeback from 2-0 down, actually his only other one, was against Filip Krajinovic, Rod Laver Arena, 6-love in the 5th. So he's done it both times. A lot of people kind of harp on Medvedev's 5-set record. I think if you look at it now, since 2019, when he made the improvements in his fitness and his consistency and really became the Medvedev that we know he is today, he is 5-5 in 5-setters, and 2 of those 5-setters were against Nadal. So I don't think Medvedev is dynamite when it comes to 5 sets. If you're telling me which format do I think he has a better chance of, beating Novak Djokovic in, would I say 5 or 3? I'd probably say 3. But I don't think that the 5-setters are like this major issue for him anymore either. Ruusuvuori came out looking really patient, really measured in the rallies, hitting with more spin off of both wings than I'm used to seeing from him. I've never seen him play so patient. And it looked like his fitness was allowing him to play ball. Really good kind of measured aggression from Emil. And Medvedev was making too many unforced errors and he wasn't making first serves. So I'm going to keep it really simple. In the last 3 sets, Medvedev made way more first serves than he did in the first 2. And he made way less unforced errors. And that's what Medvedev does. Those are his strengths. Big first serve, no unforced errors, court coverage. That's the big 3. And in the first 2 sets, 2 out of the 3 were missing. The court coverage, it's never missing. He always has that if he's not injured or tired. 2 out of the 3 were missing. And then, when all 3 were there in the latter 3 sets, he had enough to make the comeback and beat Ruusuvuori for the next 3 sets. So that is that. Another survival of a top seed. I will end on Rybakina falling to Anna Blinkova in a tiebreak in the 3rd set that lasted over 30 minutes. Wow. This was one of the most dramatic things that has happened in recent history. One of the most dramatic matches in recent history. There's no doubt about it. I'm only going to talk about 3 points here. There was a match point for Rybakina at 18-17 where, it really seemed like she had this one on ice. The point was on the ad side. She hit a wide serve on the ad side and a backhand down the line flush, right? So sideline to sideline. Really solid backhand down the line. And Blinkova squashed defense on the forehand, which was really good. Rybakina hits a beautiful angled forehand behind Blinkova on the next ball. And I just thought, wow, I mean, you're recovering in the middle and you have to deal with this really great angle by Rybakina. She does it again on the slice forehand defense. And both of them were deep and not too high, not too slow. It's just remarkable forehand defense on this match point. They go back to neutral. Rybakina hits another really good forehand cross court with really good width a little bit later on. And Blinkova is again on the dead run, but this time she hits through it on the dead run. Recovers to the other sideline for a backhand. This one, it wasn't really defense. You know, she was going to get there, but still she had to cover the ground. And then at this point, I think Rybakina just panicked. She was like, holy crap, what is this? And just hit this really silly, bad shot selection drop shot. You know, it's like the clock goes off in your head, like, okay, this point needs to end. And that's what happened with Rybakina. So she hits this knee ball, this knee-high backhand drop shot from the baseline that never really had much of a chance. And Blinkova gets there easily and hits over a forehand cross court that Elena couldn't react to in time and makes the volley error. So just remarkable match point save. But I do want to note, like, one of the themes in that was Blinkova defending her forehand side, particularly on 2 occasions against Rybakina's forehand cross court. Rybakina's forehand cross court is the bedrock of her game. Now, her backhand is one of the best in women's tennis. There's no doubt about that. But I still think that the forehand cross court is kind of the foundation and the setup for a lot of the things she does. And what stood out to me watching the highlights here was Blinkova was just unbelievable forehand to forehand, strength to strength. And at 20 all, you heard me right, 20 all, they are in a forehand to forehand exchange. Rybakina hits this pretty good trade cross court, and Blinkova redirects it so well with pace and width and depth off of a pretty deep trade from Rybakina. And from there, she controlled the point, had 2 balls to take out of the air. She takes one on a forehand drive volley. She takes the next one on an overhead. This was a beautiful point at 20 all, and one worthy of being the difference maker in the match. Because at 21-20, Rybakina hits a big forehand inside-out return that, again, looked like it was going to win her the point. You know, you would have bet a lot of money after that return and serve that Elena was going to win the point and it was going to be 21 all. But Blinkova does a good job just getting the ball back in the court. There's no quality on it. It's just a short little sitter. And Rybakina she does need to move forward way inside the service line to play the ball. And it was a long way for Rybakina to run in. And the ball had dropped a little bit below the level of the net. So at this point, whenever you're in tight on the net and you're running forward and you have a ball that's net high or even especially below the level of the net, especially even on the backhand, it's a little bit awkward to go inside out from the middle of the court with the two-hander from that position. And if you guys have seen the match point, you know what I'm talking about. It would have been a little bit awkward for Rybakina to go inside out. If you notice, Blinkova does a really good job of staying home. She doesn't recover all the way to the middle. Maybe she didn't have time to, I don't know. But she stays home. And I just think the visual of Blinkova staying home probably made Rybakina pull the backhand a little bit too close to the sideline, shrink her target. She missed it wide. And that was all she wrote. 22-20, your final score in the third set tiebreak. And Rybakina, who was one of the title contenders, goes out. That is Swiatek's half. And I believe, is that Zheng Xinwen's section? I think it's Zheng Xinwen's section. I think Zheng Xinwen is basically the favorite to come out of that section. All right. That is all I got, folks. What a day. What a day at the Australian Open. I'll get the recording schedule back on track. Don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you next time. Hope you enjoyed.